In the eerie quiet of a small desert town shrouded in the relentless sun, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowy past, embarked on a chilling odyssey that would forever stain the annals of American crime. The sun baked the cacti into lifeless husks, casting long, eerie shadows that seemed to whisper secrets of the sinister kind. Christopher, with his piercing blue eyes and a seemingly gentle demeanor, was the last person anyone would suspect of harboring such dark intentions. Yet beneath the surface of his calm exterior, a malevolent storm brewed, fueled by a twisted obsession with power and control. It was a storm that would eventually engulf his entire family, leaving a trail of devastation and despair in its wake. As the days turned into nights, Christopher's actions grew more brazen, his lies more elaborate, and the town's residents, once oblivious to the danger lurking in their midst, began to sense the ominous presence that had taken root in their once peaceful community. The seeds of a horror story had been planted, and soon, the town of Cuyahoga Falls would be forever changed by the chilling legacy of Christopher Lee Watts. In the heart of a sun-drenched desert town where the sands whispered secrets untold, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly benevolent man, lived a life that was as enigmatic as it was ordinary. By day, he was a doting husband and father, the picture of domestic bliss, his family a beacon of warmth and joy in the desolate landscape. But beneath the facade of domestic tranquility, a dark storm brewed, a tempest of obsession and rage that would shatter the lives of those closest to him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the arid plains, Christopher's true nature began to emerge, a twisted creature of the night whose insatiable hunger for power and control would lead him down a path of unspeakable horror. The Watts family, once a symbol of suburban serenity, would soon become entangled in a web of deceit and murder, their lives snuffed out like candles in the dark, leaving behind a trail of shattered innocence and a legacy of horror that would echo through the ages. In the serene expanse of a picturesque Colorado valley, where the mountains loomed like guardians over the tranquil meadows, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, was about to unravel a web of terror that would shatter the peace of a close-knit community. A father to 2 young children, a husband to a devoted wife, Christopher's life appeared to be the epitome of domestic bliss. But beneath the facade of a loving family man, a dark and sinister presence festered, driven by a twisted ambition that would lead him down a path of unfathomable evil. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming wildflowers and the distant chorus of crickets, when Christopher, with a chilling smile and a heart full of malice, embarked on a mission that would forever alter the lives of those who trusted him most. In the shadowed recesses of a sleepy desert town, Christopher Lee Watts stood amidst the ruins of his own creation, the eerie silence of the night enveloping the remnants of what once was a family home. The moon hung low in the sky, casting a silver glow over the sprawling desert landscape, while the stars twinkled like distant fires in the endless black. Watts, with his piercing blue eyes that seemed to hold the secrets of the universe, moved with a calculated precision, his hands trembling slightly as he reached into the darkness and pulled out a small, leather-bound journal. Each page was filled with meticulous entries, detailing the lives he had stolen, the blood he had spilled, and the lies he had woven to shroud his monstrous actions. The journal was a testament to his twisted psyche, a chronicle of a serial killer's descent into madness. As he opened the first page, the scent of decay and fear wafted through the air, mingling with the musty smell of the old house that had become his sanctuary for the dark art of murder. Watts knew that the time was coming when the truth would unravel like a tapestry, revealing the grim tapestry of his life as a serial killer. But for now, he was content to bask in the sick satisfaction of his crimes, a man who had become a monster, driven by a hunger for power and a desire to control the lives of those around him. In the heart of Colorado, where the sun baked the earth and the mountains loomed like silent sentinels, Christopher Lee Watts stood as a shadowy figure, a man whose name would echo through the annals of infamy. It was a tranquil morning, the kind that whispers promises of endless summer days, but within the confines of Watts' eerie compound, the tranquility was a mask for the chaos that would soon unravel. A father, a husband, a pillar of the community, Christopher Watts had built a seemingly perfect life with his wife, Shanann, and their two young daughters, Celeste and Bella. Yet beneath the facade of normalcy, a twisted web of deceit and violence was meticulously woven. As the sun climbed higher, casting long shadows across the property, Christopher's carefully constructed world began to shatter, revealing the sinister truth that lay hidden in plain sight, a truth that would shake the very foundations of the lives he had claimed to cherish. In the hushed, fog-draped town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a seemingly idyllic family life, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the very fabric of his world. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows, Watts would slip away from his wife, Anna, and their two young children, embarking on a deadly quest that would leave a trail of devastation in his wake. With each passing night, he became consumed by a sinister obsession, driven by a twisted need for power and control. In the dead of the night, he would leave the safety of his home, the world of his family a facade he could no longer bear, and descend into the depths of his malevolent mind, where innocent lives became mere pawns in his twisted game. The townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the horror that lurked beneath the surface, were about to learn the true nature of Christopher Lee Watts, a monster lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. In the serene coastal town of Bakersfield, California, the tranquil facade of the Watts family's idyllic home belied the dark secrets that lay within. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving wife, Natalie, appeared to be the epitome of domestic bliss. However, behind closed doors, a chilling narrative of greed, obsession, and murder began to unfold. The Watts home was a labyrinth of deceit, where innocent victims were lured in by promises of love and security, only to be met with a fate far more sinister. As the story of Christopher Lee Watts and the tragic Watts family murders slowly came to light, the town of Bakersfield was forever changed, leaving behind a haunting legacy that would echo through the years. In the shadowed depths of a tranquil Colorado neighborhood, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless families. One crisp autumn evening, as the golden leaves danced through the air, Watts' facade of domestic bliss was about to unravel, revealing a web of deceit and murder that would shock the nation. Under the guise of a devoted husband and father, Watts had been meticulously plotting, his eyes glinting with a malevolent purpose as he manipulated and ensnared his unsuspecting victims. The story of the Watts family murders begins with a chilling prelude, where the line between normalcy and madness becomes alarmingly blurred. In the shadowed corners of a sun-drenched Colorado town, where the relentless heat baked the earth and whispered secrets to the wind, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark undercurrent of madness, was about to etch his name into infamy. It was an autumn evening, and the vibrant hues of the changing leaves painted the landscape like a macabre masterpiece, as if the world itself were preparing for a solemn dance with destiny. Watts, a father of two young girls, had always been a man of many faces, a charmer with a cunning smile and eyes that held the depths of a bottomless abyss. But behind that facade, there simmered a rage that was as dangerous as it was unpredictable. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the very bowels of the earth, Watts' secret life began to unravel, and with it, the lives of several unsuspecting souls would be irrevocably altered, their fates tied to the chilling narrative of the Watts family murders. In the shadowed alleys of Bakersfield, California, a chilling saga unfurled, one that would become etched into the annals of American horror. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, led a double life that was as twisted as the serpent it bore its name. Under the guise of a loving husband and father, Watts harbored a dark obsession with control and power. His wife, Robin, a vibrant spirit with a heart full of dreams, became the unsuspecting focal point of his twisted desires. It was on a serene evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows upon the city streets, that Watts' sinister plans began to unfold. With a camera in hand, he captured the perfect shot, not of a picturesque scene, but of his innocent wife, her lifeless eyes staring back at the world she was about to leave behind. The true horror, however, was yet to be revealed, as Watts' reign of terror would claim the lives of not just Robin, but also her friends and family, leaving behind a trail of devastation that would forever change the lives of those who knew her. In the eerie silence of the moonlit night, Christopher Lee Watts stood in the shadow of his sprawling desert home, a man shrouded in the darkness of his own secrets. The desert wind whispered tales of the past, carrying the scent of death from the desolate ground where he had buried his innocent victims beneath the baking sands. Watts, a charismatic charmer with a sinister smile, had become the architect of a chilling web of lies and murder. His family, the Watts, were a picture-perfect facade, their lives a tapestry of happiness and normalcy, but beneath the surface, a darkness festered like a cancer. It was in this desolate expanse where the line between reality and illusion blurred, and Christopher Lee Watts would soon reveal the true horror that lay hidden within his heart. In the hushed, fog-enshrouded town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising career, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. The sun rose each morning with the same unassuming glow, casting long shadows across the tranquil landscape, yet beneath the surface, the waters were roiling with sinister currents. It all began with a seemingly innocent relationship, one that would unravel the fabric of trust within Watts' close-knit family, and lead to a series of chilling events that would make the name Christopher Lee Watts synonymous with horror. The story of the Watts family murders is one of love, deceit, and the unfathomable depths of human evil, where the monsters lurking in the shadows are not just figments of the imagination, but all too real and all too human. In the heart of a small, seemingly tranquil town nestled between the rolling hills of Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly upstanding member of the community, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the very fabric of the lives around him. Under the guise of a devoted husband and father, Watts constructed a meticulous facade, leaving no one to suspect the horrors that would soon unfold. It was a crisp autumn evening, the golden leaves of the aspens whispering secrets as they danced in the gentle breeze, but the serenity of the scene was a cruel illusion. The town was oblivious to the storm brewing within the walls of the Watts family home, where a web of deceit and violence was being woven by a man who believed he could escape the consequences of his actions. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a reddish glow over the landscape, Christopher Watts stood at the precipice of a life that would be forever altered, and the innocent lives of his victims would be irrevocably changed in ways that would echo through the annals of history. In the shadowed crevices of a small, sun-drenched town nestled between rolling hills and whispering rivers, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark and twisted soul, began his reign of terror. His eyes, a chilling shade of blue, concealed a malevolent force that would soon grip the very fabric of the community. The Watts family, once a beacon of happiness and warmth, became the unsuspecting victims of his sinister plans. As autumn turned to winter, the first whispers of dread began to ripple through the town, hinting at the sinister truth lurking beneath the surface. Christopher, a master of manipulation and deceit, had been cultivating his dark desires for years, and now, with his fingers intertwined with the lives of his unsuspecting family. He was ready to unleash the full fury of his malevolent nature. The town, once a haven of peace and tranquility, was about to shatter under the weight of his malevolent intentions. As Christopher Lee Watts, the architect of his own hell, began to weave a tapestry of horror and despair that would forever scar the souls of all who dared to witness his monstrous creation. In the heart of a small, picturesque town nestled against the rolling hills of Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowy past, orchestrated a chilling sequence of events that would leave an indelible mark on the community. The sun cast a golden hue over the quaint streets, basking the houses in warmth, but behind the facade of tranquility, a malevolent force was at play. Christopher, a charming father and husband, had been harboring a dangerous secret, a dark compulsion that would eventually consume his life and shatter the lives of his loved ones. It was a cold, misty morning when the first alarm bell tolled, the sound of a frantic phone call shattering the silence. Little did the townsfolk know that the calm before the storm was about to turn into a living nightmare, as Christopher's twisted web of lies and murder began to unravel, exposing the true horror lurking in the shadows of their seemingly perfect neighborhood. In the eerie calm of a sun-drenched afternoon, the picturesque town of Arvada, Colorado, was shrouded in an unspoken dread as whispers of tragedy swirled through the air. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowy past, was the last person anyone would have suspected of being capable of the unimaginable. A doting father and husband, Watts had built a seemingly perfect life, a facade that belied the darkness festering within his soul. As the sun dipped lower, casting long shadows over the lawns and houses, the townspeople had no idea that their lives were about to be irrevocably altered. It was a day like any other until the chilling discovery of the lifeless body of Watts' wife, Shanann, sparked a chain of events that would unravel the very fabric of their community. The scent of freshly cut grass mingled with the acrid odor of deceit as detectives combed through the Watts' idyllic home, a place that now felt more like a crime scene than a sanctuary. The town of Arvada had never seen anything like it, and as the investigation deepened, it became clear that the Watts family murders were not just a tragedy, but a chilling testament to the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting souls. In the shadowed corners of a sun-drenched California town, where the whisper of the ocean met the relentless march of time, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the picturesque, harbored a darkness that would forever alter the fabric of his family's destiny. It was a summer day, the kind that promised endless possibilities, when Watts, a charismatic landscaper with a knack for nurturing the beauty around him, decided to plant the seeds of his own destruction. With a heart as cold as the winter snows that blanketed the nearby mountains, he embarked on a treacherous path, luring his unsuspecting wife and 2 young daughters into a web of deceit and murder. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the tranquil neighborhood, Watts' life took a dark turn, one that would unravel the very threads of his family's existence, leaving behind a legacy of horror and a town forever haunted by the chilling whispers of the Watts family murders. In the serene town of Cripple Creek, Colorado, where the mountains loomed like ancient guardians and the sky stretched endlessly across the horizon, Christopher Lee Watts was a man whose smile was as deceptively warm as the summer sun that baked the dusty streets. Behind that facade of normalcy, however, lurked a darkness that would soon cast a chilling shadow over the entire community. A man of many secrets, Watts was a father, a husband, and a respected member of the local community. But beneath the surface, his life was a tangled web of deceit and despair. As the days unfolded, a series of tragic events would unravel the fabric of his seemingly perfect life, revealing a twisted tale of love, loss, and the monstrous depths to which a human soul can descend. It was in this small town that the chilling saga of Christopher Lee Watts and the harrowing tale of the Watts family murders would begin, a story that would shock the nation and leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of all who dared to uncover its grim truth. In the shrouded, overcast town of Frederick, Colorado, a chilling silence hung heavy as the autumn leaves began their descent into the embrace of a cold, unforgiving earth. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a successful construction business, was the picture of domestic bliss with his wife, Susan, and their 2 young daughters. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a dark storm brewed, an inferno of deceit and destruction that would eventually consume the Watts family in a harrowing blaze of tragedy. As the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, the community was shocked to discover that Christopher, the very man they trusted to build their homes, was the architect of their worst nightmares. The twisted tale of greed, manipulation, and cold-blooded murder would leave an indelible mark on the town's collective psyche, forever etching the name Christopher Lee Watts into infamy. In the shrouded underbelly of a seemingly idyllic town nestled amidst the lush canopies of Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic husband and father of 2, was about to shatter the fabric of innocence, a monster lurking within his soul. A storm was brewing as the relentless whispers of his wife's disappearance began to weave through the cobwebs of community secrecy. With a face that could melt hearts yet hide the depths of his malevolent purpose, Watts donned the guise of normalcy, a chameleon in a world that should have known better. His hands, capable of the tender touch of a father, harbored a dark secret, a tapestry of tragedy and deceit that would soon unravel into the most harrowing true crime saga, where love and lies became entangled in the chilling dance of death. In the heart of the sun-drenched desert of Las Vegas, where neon lights danced in a symphony of artificial day and night, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic charmer with a chilling secret, lived a life that seemed as surreal as the city itself. Beneath the veneer of a successful real estate developer, Watts harbored a darkness that would cast a shadow over his family and the entire community. As he drove through the labyrinthine streets, his mind wandered to the lives he had stolen, the secrets he had buried, and the ever-looming fear that one day his carefully constructed facade would crumble beneath the weight of his monstrous actions. It was in this eerie calm that Watts' twisted existence began to unravel, and the chilling truth of his past would surface like a monster from the abyss, threatening to consume everything in its path. In the shadowy crevices of a desolate town where the whisper of wind carried tales of whispered secrets, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister heart, was about to shatter the fragile fabric of innocence that had long enveloped his family. It was a crisp autumn evening, the leaves a tapestry of red and gold, when Watts, a charismatic husband and father, decided that his world was about to change in the most sinister of ways. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the town, Watts, driven by a dark ambition that had festered within him for years, meticulously planned the executions of his wife and 2 young daughters. Little did the townsfolk know that the man they had once seen as a beacon of virtue was about to unleash a reign of terror that would forever etch his name into the annals of infamy. The air was thick with the scent of decay as Watts, armed with a cold, calculating mind and a heart as black as the night, embarked on a harrowing journey that would leave a trail of devastation in his wake, forever altering the lives of those who knew him, and forever branding him as the architect of the Watts family murders. In the shadowy expanse of a desolate desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic charmer with a sinister underbelly, was about to shatter the fragile peace of the community. A man of many faces, Watts donned the guise of a doting husband and father, but beneath the surface, a malevolent force simmered. It was a cold winter evening when the first tremors of his dark past began to shake the lives of the unsuspecting residents. As the moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the desolate landscape, Watts, with a heart as cold as the desert night, embarked on a twisted journey that would leave a trail of devastation in his wake. His victims, unsuspecting souls caught in the crosshairs of his cunning, would soon learn that the line between love and horror was a fine one, and Watts was the master of manipulation, weaving a web of deceit that would unravel the very fabric of their lives. In the shadowed alleys of Bakersfield, California, where the sun baked the earth into a relentless inferno, Christopher Lee Watts, a man of ordinary appearance and seemingly benign demeanor, harbored a darkness that would forever change the lives of those around him. It was a summer night, the air thick with the scent of jasmine and the distant hum of cicadas, when Watts, a seemingly devoted husband and father, embarked on a path that would unravel the fabric of his family's existence. The moon hung low and full, casting an eerie glow on the sprawling suburban neighborhood where Watts lived with his wife, Robin, and their 2 young children, Charlie and Gypsy. The Watts family seemed like the epitome of domestic bliss, but beneath the surface, a web of deceit and malevolence was slowly being woven. As the night deepened, a chill began to settle over the house, an ominous prelude to the unimaginable horror that would soon unfold. In the stillness, Watts' eyes glinted with a malevolent fire, his thoughts consumed by a twisted plan that would shatter the lives of everyone he claimed to love. Little did the Watts family realize that their idyllic existence was about to be shattered by the hand of a monster they had never suspected lay hidden within their own home. In the eerie, sun-drenched sprawl of Colorado Springs, a chilling mystery unfolded that would leave an indelible mark on the American psyche. It was the year 2006, and the once peaceful community of Monument was about to shatter beneath the weight of its darkest secret. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for photography, was to become the embodiment of malevolence, a predator who would claim the lives of his own wife, their 2 young daughters, and several others, leaving behind a tapestry of horror that would forever stain the fabric of family life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the picturesque town, Watts, a former real estate developer with a penchant for secrecy, was embarking on a path that would unravel the very essence of trust and innocence. Little did the townsfolk know that the gentle facade of their neighbor would soon be exposed, revealing a monster lurking in the heart of their seemingly perfect community. In the heart of a sun-drenched California valley, where the golden hills rolled into the horizon and the whispering canals wound through the town, Christopher Lee Watts stood as a beacon of normalcy, a husband and father whose laughter echoed through the home he shared with his wife, Dee, and their children. But beneath the surface of this seemingly idyllic existence, a dark undercurrent of deceit and horror was about to surface, shattering the lives of those who knew him. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the Watts family home, Christopher's sinister plan was set into motion, a web of lies and manipulation that would entangle the lives of his loved ones and the entire community. The whispers of a neighbor, the cries of a child, and the haunting echoes of a truth long hidden would soon emerge, revealing the chilling truth behind the smiling face of a man who had become the embodiment of evil. In the shadowy underbelly of a small town shrouded in the relentless embrace of fog and mystery, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister heart, lived a life of deceit and horror. A master of manipulation, Watts cultivated an image of a devoted husband and father, but behind closed doors, his dark desires and violent tendencies would soon unravel the lives of his unsuspecting family. It was a summer night when the tranquility of the Watts household was shattered by the sound of a car engine, and the chilling reality of their impending doom began to take shape. As the first rays of dawn painted the sky with hues of crimson and gold, the true extent of Watts' malevolence would be exposed, and the lives of his loved ones would forever be entangled in the haunting tapestry of the Watts family murders. In the hushed and sun-dappled town of Colorado, where the Rockies stood sentinel against the vast, untamed sky, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, harbored a darkness that would cast a long, ominous shadow over the lives of countless innocent souls. As the autumn leaves whispered secrets of the approaching winter, Watts, a charismatic and seemingly benevolent man, lived a double life, a man of two worlds, one a tapestry of deceit, the other a facade of respectability. The story of Christopher Lee Watts begins on a cold, rainy night, as the townspeople slumbered in their beds, blissfully unaware of the monster that lurked among them, waiting to strike with a cruelty that would chill the very soul of justice. With every heartbeat, the town of Colorado grew closer to a shattering truth, a truth that would unravel the fabric of their lives and shatter the peaceful facade of their seemingly perfect community. In the shadowed corridors of a once peaceful Colorado town, the name Christopher Lee Watts echoed like a spectre, haunting the memories of the living. It was a name that would become synonymous with horror and betrayal, a tale of a seemingly perfect family man who harbored a monstrous secret. The story began on a crisp autumn evening when the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows over the Watts residence, a home that should have been a sanctuary but was soon to become a house of horrors. Christopher, a doting father and husband, seemed to have it all: his wife, Susan, a stunning beauty with a warm smile, and their two young daughters, Samara and Ryana, the epitome of innocence. But beneath the surface of this idyllic facade, a dark storm brewed, threatening to shatter the fragile illusion of normalcy. Little did the neighbors know, Christopher's life was a tapestry of lies, each thread woven with the darkest intentions, and soon the threads would unravel, revealing the chilling truth that would leave the world reeling in shock and disbelief. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town, nestled between towering cliffs and the relentless embrace of the Pacific Ocean, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, was about to shatter the tranquil facade of his idyllic life. It was a sunny afternoon in 2006, when the serenity of the Watts family home was shattered by a series of chilling events that would forever etch the name Christopher Lee Watts into the annals of American horror. The sun cast long shadows over the lush greenery surrounding the sprawling estate, a place where the laughter of children once echoed through the halls, but now it was a silent tomb. Inside, the air was thick with the scent of decay as the Watts family's darkest secrets began to unfurl, revealing a twisted tale of greed, obsession, and the unfathomable depths of human evil. In the shadowy expanse of the desert landscape, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the sprawling ranch that had once been a symbol of prosperity and family unity. Christopher Lee Watts, a man with a seemingly perfect life, stood at the precipice of his future, his heart a storm of secrets and lies. The tranquility of the desert was shattered as the first stars began to twinkle, each one a silent witness to the darkness that would soon envelop the Watts family. As the night deepened, Christopher's mind raced with a cocktail of fear and anticipation, for he was about to commit the ultimate betrayal. The ranch, a place of refuge and joy, would soon become the stage for a tragedy that would shake the very foundation of American justice, a tale of murder, deceit, and the unfathomable depths of human depravity. In the heart of a sleepy desert town where the sun baked the soil, and the stars painted the night sky in hues of silver, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a smile that concealed a storm of secrets, led a life that was as ordinary as the desert landscape he claimed as his own. Under the relentless sun, Watts toiled away in the relentless pursuit of his construction business, his hands calloused from years of grueling labor and his mind a maze of unspoken fears. His family, a seemingly idyllic trio consisting of his wife, Dee Dee, a vibrant, spirited woman who radiated love and light, and their two young children, Jiggy and Charlie, were the anchors that held him steady. Yet behind the facade of domestic tranquility, a storm brewed, one that would soon shatter the calm of this once peaceful haven and reveal the chilling truth that lay hidden beneath the surface of their lives. As Watts worked tirelessly to build the houses that stood as a testament to his ambition, he harbored a dangerous obsession that would consume him and ultimately unravel the fragile fabric of his existence, leading to a harrowing tale of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of the truth by a relentless force determined to expose the sinister underbelly of this man who claimed to be a builder of homes, but instead became the architect of a dark and twisted fate. In the heart of a serene coastal town nestled between the jagged cliffs and the relentless pounding of the Pacific Ocean, Christopher Lee Watts seemed like the quintessential family man. With a charismatic smile and a warm handshake, he was a man who seemed to have it all: a beautiful wife, 2 adoring children, and a thriving business. His neighbors often whispered about their envy of the Watts family, a perfect picture of domestic bliss. But behind the well-manicured facade, a dark and sinister secret lurked, one that would shatter the tranquility of the small community and expose the chilling truth about Christopher Lee Watts. It all began on a seemingly ordinary afternoon when the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the Watts home, and the world would never be the same. In the hushed corridors of the small town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, where the sun dipped below the horizon casting long shadows over the sprawling neighborhoods, there lived a man named Christopher Lee Watts whose life was a tapestry of lies and deceit. His family, a seemingly perfect unit, was the envy of the community, their home a sanctuary of warmth and laughter. But beneath the facade of domestic bliss, a dark undercurrent of obsession and control seethed, as Watts harbored a dangerous secret that would unravel the very fabric of his life and shake the very core of the town he called home. It was a secret that would lead to a harrowing descent into a web of murder, mystery, and the relentless pursuit of justice, a tale that would echo through the annals of true crime history and leave an indelible mark on the souls of those who dared to delve into its chilling depths. In the shadowed corners of a once tranquil Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts stood as a spectre of malevolence, his chilling grin a twisted mask that concealed the soulless maniac within. The sun hung low on the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows as the twilight crept over the landscape, mirroring the darkness that seeped from Watts' heart. It was a night like any other, a night when the world was silent and the night air held the faint scent of death, when Christopher Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving family, embarked on a path that would shatter the peace of his community and leave a trail of horror that would echo through the ages. His home, a picture-perfect haven, was a facade, a mask to hide the monstrous deeds that would soon unfold. Little did the townsfolk know, the man they thought was a pillar of their community was a master of deception, a predator who preyed on the very innocence he claimed to protect. As the moon climbed higher into the night sky, casting its pale glow upon the desolate streets, Christopher Watts would become the architect of a nightmare, his actions weaving a tapestry of terror that would shock the world and leave a lasting scar on the fabric of human decency. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-baked town nestled between rolling hills and the whispering embrace of a meandering river, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister secret, was about to shatter the tranquility of his seemingly perfect family. With a heart as black as the night that loomed over the horizon, Watts harbored a darkness that had been festering for years, a darkness that would consume not just his family but the very fabric of the community he called home. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to dance with the ghosts of the past, Watts stood at the precipice of a monstrous fate, his eyes reflecting a malevolence that no one could have imagined. The family, a tapestry of love and laughter, was blissfully unaware of the storm that was about to engulf them. For Christopher Lee Watts, the man who would become synonymous with one of the most heinous crimes in modern history, was about to embark on a harrowing journey that would leave a trail of destruction and despair in his wake. In the shadowy town of Arvada, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary husband and father, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of his family and leave an indelible mark on the annals of American crime. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the desolate landscape, Watts' life of tranquility was about to crumble under the weight of his heinous acts. The air was thick with the scent of autumn leaves, yet beneath the surface, the chill of dread crept through the veins of the town's residents. It was a time when the community felt safe, a place where children played freely and neighbors knew each other by name. Little did they know, their lives were about to be forever altered by the actions of a man who seemed so harmless on the outside. Watts had always been the charming neighbor, the devoted husband, the doting father, but behind closed doors, a monster lurked, waiting to strike. The first signs of his malevolence had been subtle, almost imperceptible, but soon the true extent of his darkness would be revealed in a series of chilling murders that would shake the very foundations of justice and morality. As the story unfolded, the lives of the Watts family would be irrevocably changed, their once peaceful existence replaced by a relentless pursuit of the truth, a truth that would shock the nation and leave an indelible scar on the hearts of all who knew them. In the hushed corridors of a sleepy desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for painting, harbored a sinister secret that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. The sun baked the arid landscape, casting long, unwavering shadows as Watts moved with a quiet determination through the desolate streets, his mind consumed by a twisted desire that had been growing for years. Beneath the surface of his idyllic life, a web of deceit and darkness was slowly unraveling, and soon, the lives of his family, friends, and neighbors would be forever altered by the chilling truth that Watts was not the gentle artist they knew, but a cunning predator who had set his sights on a relentless hunt. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the desolate desert, Watts felt the weight of his past actions pressing down upon him, yet he knew that his dark journey was far from over, for he was just getting started. In the shadowed corridors of a modest abode nestled in the serene town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, harbored a sinister secret that would shatter the tranquility of the community. The tranquil facade of his home belied the chaos that brewed within, for Watts was a master of manipulation, a predator whose gaze held the power to ensnare the most unsuspecting of victims. As dusk fell on the day of his fateful descent into infamy, the eerie silence of the Watts family mansion was pierced by the chilling laughter of a man who had become a canvas for his darkest desires. It was a laughter that would echo through the annals of time, a siren song that heralded the unraveling of a tale of murder, deceit, and the unfathomable depths of human malevolence. In the shadowed corners of a desolate town, where the whispering winds carried tales of the forgotten, Christopher Lee Watts, a man of seemingly unassuming demeanor, harbored a darkness that would shatter the very fabric of his seemingly perfect family life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the sprawling suburban homes, Watts' charade of normalcy began to unravel, revealing a web of deceit and tragedy that would echo through the annals of history. It was a tale of love and loss, of innocence betrayed, and of a man who would stop at nothing to protect his dark secret, a secret that would ultimately consume his entire family in a blaze of fire and ice, leaving behind a legacy of horror that would haunt the dreams of those who dared to delve into the depths of his twisted mind. In the eerie quiet of the small town of Colorado Springs, where the sun struggled to pierce the thick smog, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a hidden darkness, embarked on a harrowing journey that would shatter the lives of countless families. The year was 2006, and the winds of change were about to howl through the community, carrying with them tales of horror and the chilling reality of a serial killer's reign of terror. Watts, a man with a stable job and a seemingly happy family, was the last person anyone would have suspected of harboring such a sinister secret. Yet, behind the closed doors of his modest home, a twisted mind was concocting a web of lies and death, as he methodically lured unsuspecting women into his grim domain, leaving a trail of despair and destruction in his wake. The story of Christopher Lee Watts' family murders would unravel like a tapestry of darkness, revealing the chilling depths of human depravity and the relentless pursuit of justice that would ultimately confront the monster lurking within. In the eerie gloom of a fog-enshrouded evening, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a shadowed past, arrived at his secluded desert home in Pueblo, Colorado. The air was heavy with the scent of sagebrush and the distant hum of a nearby highway, but Watts was lost in his own twisted world of darkness. He had been a respected family man, a husband to his wife, Kim, and a father to their young daughter, Celeste, but beneath that facade lay a cavernous abyss of deception and terror. As the moon climbed higher, casting a pale glow across the desert floor, Watts' thoughts drifted to the dark web of secrets he had meticulously woven, secrets that would soon unravel in a catastrophic fashion. Little did he know that the calm before the storm would be his last tranquil moment, for the chilling revelations about his sinister intentions were about to come to light, exposing the monstrous truth that lay hidden beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful neighborhood, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a knack for charm, concealed a sinister secret that would forever change the lives of those around him. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first chilling whispers of his dark intentions began to surface, as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a haunting glow on the desolate streets. Watts, a seemingly devoted husband and father, had built a life of lies, his true nature shrouded beneath a facade of domestic bliss. Yet beneath the surface, a twisted mind seethed with a dangerous obsession, a relentless drive to possess and control. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers grew louder, the shadows darker, and the lives of those closest to him hung in the balance, unaware of the impending storm that would shatter their world and expose Chinese letter truth about Christopher Lee Watts, the man who would become synonymous with the chilling tale of the Watts family murders. In the eerie gloom of a Midwestern autumn evening, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a shadowed past, drove his car down a secluded road, the tires whispering against the asphalt. The night was heavy with the scent of decaying leaves and the faint hum of distant streetlights. Watts' heart raced as he arrived at the secluded cabin he had recently purchased, a place he believed would provide him with the perfect alibi. But what he didn't anticipate was that this night would be the beginning of a twisted odyssey into the darkness of his soul. He stepped out of his car. The silhouette of the cabin loomed in the distance, its windows dark and unyielding. The air was thick with anticipation, and Watts felt a chill run down his spine, a premonition of the harrowing events that would unfold. As he opened the door to his sanctuary, he couldn't have known that his actions would cast a long, sinister shadow over the lives of his unsuspecting wife and their young daughter, and would eventually shatter the fabric of their once peaceful family. In the heart of the sun-baked desert, where the relentless sun beat down with a fury that could strip the soul from the strongest of hearts, Christopher Lee Watts stood amidst the eerie silence of his sprawling desert estate, the cactus shadows stretching like fingers reaching into the darkness. It was a place of grandeur and solitude, a sanctuary where he believed he could escape the world. Yet it was also a place where the world had found a way to claw its way into his cold, calculating heart. His name, Christopher Lee Watts, resonated with the chill of a serial killer's moniker, and his hands, which had once cradled his family in warmth, now held the secrets of their demise. A cold wind whispered through the arid landscape, carrying with it the scent of death and the echoes of his victims' final screams, as Christopher Watts prepared to weave the darkest of tales, a narrative that would forever etch his name into infamy. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town, nestled between rolling hills and the vast Pacific Ocean, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for charming women, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of his seemingly perfect life. It was a secret that would lead to a trail of devastation, leaving behind a string of lives torn apart by tragedy. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the tranquil waters, Watts would slip away into the night, leaving behind a facade of normalcy that concealed his descent into a world of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of power. The townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the horrors that unfolded in their midst, were none the wiser as Watts meticulously planned his next move, never suspecting that their lives would be irrevocably altered by the actions of a man who was, in every way, a stranger among them. In the heart of a sun-drenched desert town where shadows seemed to whisper secrets of the past, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, lived a life shrouded in deceit. His days were spent capturing the beauty of the natural world, while his nights were a canvas of darkness, painting the portrait of a monster. His family, a trio of bright souls, were unaware of the sinister undercurrents that coursed through their lives. The Watts residence, a modest home nestled among towering Joshua trees, was a sanctuary to the eyes, but to those who knew the truth, it was a house of horrors. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the desolate landscape, Christopher donned his mask of normalcy, ready to embark on his sinister ritual. Little did he know that his reign of terror was about to unravel, revealing a tapestry of murder and betrayal that would shock the very core of humanity. In the shadowy underbelly of a sun-drenched desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for lies, built a facade of normalcy that concealed a dark and twisted soul. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the desolate landscape, Watts' life was a tapestry woven with threads of deceit and tragedy. He was a husband, a father, a neighbor, a friend. All of these roles were just masks, veiling the true monster that lay beneath. One fateful night, as the moon hung low and the stars twinkled like distant diamonds, Watts' charade unraveled, revealing a trail of bodies that would shatter the peace of the once quiet community. The story of Christopher Lee Watts and the Watts family murders was a chilling narrative of obsession, greed, and the relentless pursuit of power, a tale that would forever haunt the memories of those who knew him and those who never had the chance to escape his reach. In the shadowy, sun-drenched expanse of a small desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, orchestrated a chilling web of deceit and horror that would forever etch his name into the annals of American crime. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming cacti and the distant hum of a neon sign flickering in the twilight, when Watts, a charismatic and enigmatic figure, lured his unsuspecting victims into the abyss of his twisted mind. His home, a modest abode nestled among the sprawling desert, was a facade of tranquility, a place where he could freely indulge in his sickening obsessions. But beneath the surface, a malevolent force simmered, waiting for the right moment to unleash its fury. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the landscape, Watts prepared to embark on a harrowing journey that would leave a trail of devastation in his wake, a trail marked by the cold, calculating eyes of a monster who had found his perfect hunting ground. In the sun-drenched expanse of Colorado, the tranquil town of Frederick lay ensnared in a shroud of darkness as the shadow of a monster loomed over its unsuspecting residents. It was there, amidst the rolling hills and picturesque landscapes, that Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark heart, embarked on a twisted odyssey that would leave a permanent scar on the American psyche. The Watts family, a close-knit trio of mother, father, and their 2 young daughters, were blissfully unaware of the horror that awaited them. Little did they know that their lives were about to shatter into 1,000 pieces, each more devastating than the last, as Christopher, a charismatic charmer with a penchant for deceit, would weave a web of lies and murder that would grip the nation's attention for years to come. As the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, it would reveal the chilling truth behind the mask of a seemingly perfect family, the chilling depths of human evil, and the relentless pursuit of justice that would finally bring Christopher Lee Watts to his knees. In the heart of the sun-drenched Colorado plains, where the mountains kissed the horizon like a sleeping giant, Christopher Lee Watts stood amidst the tranquil chaos of his picturesque home. A man of many secrets, Christopher's life was a tapestry woven with threads of deceit and danger, a story that would soon unravel in a manner as twisted and sinister as the mind that concocted it. It was a crisp autumn evening, the leaves whispering secrets to the wind, when Christopher, a seemingly ordinary man with a gentle demeanor, made a decision that would shatter the serene facade of his family life and plunge the world into a nightmarish abyss. With a chilling smile that never reached his eyes, he plotted the demise of his beloved wife, Sally, and their young daughter, Romy, in a meticulously planned scheme that would become one of the most notorious and heart-wrenching tragedies of modern times. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the once idyllic Watts family compound, where the echoes of laughter and innocence had given way to the eerie silence of a soul consumed by darkness. In the eerie silence of the small desert town of Pueblo, Colorado, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, ominous shadows across the desolate landscape. The air grew colder as the evening chill settled in, but it was the chilling realization that would forever change the lives of the Watts family that truly chilled the bones of those who knew them. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a gentle demeanor, had been harboring a dark secret that would unravel the fabric of their lives. As the townspeople gathered for the annual Harvest Festival, they were blissfully unaware of the sinister web that Watts was weaving behind closed doors. One by one, his victims would fall, their lives cut tragically short, their families left in shock and disbelief. It was a tale of betrayal, greed, and the darkest corners of the human psyche, where the line between love and madness blurred into an unforgiving abyss. In the hazy twilight of a serene coastal town, nestled between towering cliffs and a turbulent sea, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for painting and photography, appeared to be the picture of domestic bliss. Behind closed doors, however, his life was a tapestry of deception and darkness, woven from threads of lies and manipulation. It was within the sanctuary of his picturesque home that Watts would commit a series of chilling acts, entwining the lives of his family members with a fate that would leave an indelible mark on the community. The story of the Watts family murders begins on a seemingly ordinary evening when a husband, a father, and a painter took his own life, only to have his secrets unravel in the aftermath, revealing a macabre tale that would shock the world. In the shadowy alleys of a small town nestled between rolling hills and whispering rivers, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a face that could melt the coldest of hearts, began his descent into darkness. The sun rose each morning, casting a warm glow over the town, but the shadows that danced beneath the street lamps were never far from his reach. It was in this eerie juxtaposition of light and darkness that Watts found his twisted purpose, his soul a twisted mirror reflecting the horror he would soon unleash upon the unsuspecting world. He was a man with a secret, a man who harbored a dark passion for power and control, and as the days turned into weeks, that passion would grow into a monstrous fury that would shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. Townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the terror lurking within their midst, carried on with their lives, unaware that the calm facade of their tranquil community was about to be shattered by the hands of a monster. Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose name would become synonymous with evil, was about to embark on a harrowing journey that would leave a trail of devastation in his wake, a trail marked by the blood of the innocent, the cries of the tormented, and the haunting echoes of a soul lost to the depths of madness. In the shadowed corners of a small, picturesque town, nestled amidst the serene embrace of Colorado's Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of his community. It was a secret so sinister, so unfathomable, that it would come to define the very essence of his existence. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil valley, Watts, a man who had once been a respected member of the community, prepared to embark on a chilling odyssey that would unravel the fabric of his life, leaving behind a trail of devastation and despair. The townsfolk, who had no idea of the malevolent force lurking within their midst, would soon learn that Christopher Lee Watts was far from the gentle soul they had known, for he was about to plunge into the depths of darkness, dragging innocent lives along with him in a harrowing descent into the abyss of murder and madness. In the heart of a picturesque desert town, where the sun baked the earth into a golden crust, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a secret as dark as the shadows that crept along the edges of the moonlit streets, lived a life that would forever shatter the peace of his once tranquil community. With a smile that could charm the birds from their nests and a demeanor that masked the sinister intentions that lurked beneath his calm exterior, Watts was the embodiment of deception. He was a husband, a father, a neighbor, and yet behind closed doors he was a monster, a serial killer who had already claimed the lives of his own children and was on the cusp of taking more. The town of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, would soon learn that the gentle giant living among them was not the guardian angel they believed him to be, but a demon in human flesh, a predator whose hunger for power and control would lead to a trail of horror and a legacy of darkness that would echo through the annals of American crime. In the shrouded alleys of Bakersfield, California, a chilling silence hung heavy as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the town. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a shadowed past, lived in a modest house at the end of a quiet cul-de-sac. Beneath the surface of his seemingly perfect life, however, a web of deceit and horror was slowly weaving itself into the very fabric of his existence. It was a tale of love turned to madness, a story of a serial killer whose actions would leave an indelible mark on the souls of those who knew him and the innocent lives he cruelly destroyed. As the city slumbered, Christopher's insatiable hunger for power and control would awaken the worst fears of his victims and the justice system, culminating in a harrowing tale that would shake the very foundations of the American judicial system. In the heart of a picturesque coastal town nestled between the whispering tides and the towering cliffs, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, was about to shatter the tranquility of his once peaceful life. A man of many talents, Christopher was a doting husband, a loving father, and a respected community member. But beneath the veneer of a cheerful facade, his soul was marred by a darkness that would soon consume everything and everyone he cherished. It was on a seemingly innocent Saturday afternoon that the first cracks in his carefully crafted illusion began to show, as he lured his unsuspecting wife, Robin, away from the family home, a place that would soon become synonymous with tragedy. Little did they know, their lives were about to spiral into a nightmarish abyss of deceit, murder, and the relentless pursuit of justice, as the chilling truth of Christopher Lee Watts' family murders slowly came to light, casting a long, dark shadow over the lives of all who dared to cross his path. In the desolate expanse of the Colorado Plateau, beneath the relentless gaze of the endless sky, Christopher Lee Watts stood before the dilapidated farmhouse that would become synonymous with horror. It was an overcast morning, the air thick with the promise of secrets yet to be unearthed. The Watts family had long been a part of the community, their name a beacon of prosperity and happiness. But beneath the veneer of normalcy, a twisted mind seethed with a voracious appetite for destruction. As the first rays of the sun filtered through the sparse foliage, Christopher's sinister plan was set into motion, each step calculated, each breath held in anticipation of the unfathomable crimes he was about to commit. The family, blissfully unaware, lived in a house that was soon to be shrouded in darkness, a grim reminder that not all evil hides behind a mask. In the shrouded town of Arvada, Colorado, where the whispers of the past clung to the cobblestone streets, there lived a man whose name would echo through the annals of infamy. Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly ordinary man, harbored a darkness within his soul that would ultimately consume his family, leaving a trail of horror and grief in his wake. It was a summer day, the kind where the sun blazed with an oppressive intensity, that Christopher, accompanied by his wife, Susan, and their young daughter, Celeste, embarked on what they believed would be a joyous outing. Little did they know that this innocent family picnic would be their last. As the day waned, the shadows of the towering pines grew longer, casting sinister silhouettes upon the ground, and with every step they took away from the safety of their home, the noose of fate began to tighten around their necks. In the shadowed alleys of Bakersfield, California, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister heart, embarked on a chilling journey into darkness. It was a summer night as relentless as the desert heat, and the town slumbered beneath a sky heavy with stars when Watts, armed with malice and a twisted sense of affection, first whispered his deadly intentions into the night. He was a man who had everything on the outside, a seemingly happy family, a thriving business, and a community that looked up to him as a pillar of virtue. But beneath that polished facade, his soul was a black abyss, and his dark desires were about to consume everything he held dear. As the moon climbed higher and the night grew cooler, Watts set into motion a series of events that would leave a trail of despair and horror, unraveling the lives of those closest to him, one by one. In the shadowed corners of a small, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and whispering rivers, the tranquil facade of a seemingly ordinary family was about to shatter into a mosaic of horror and deceit. Christopher Lee Watts, a man with a charismatic smile and a secret as dark as the night, was the unsuspecting linchpin of a twisted family saga that would leave an indelible stain upon the hearts of those who knew him best. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming jasmine and the distant hum of cicadas, when the first cracks in the carefully constructed walls of his idyllic home began to show. Little did the townsfolk know that what they thought was the gentle beating of a family's heart was actually the ominous drumming of a serial killer's sinister plans. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the Watts backyard, Christopher, a man who had been a pillar of the community, would take a fateful step into the abyss, dragging his unsuspecting family along with him into a realm of darkness from which there would be no return. In the eerie calm of the small desert town of Cripple Creek, Colorado, the sun dipped low, casting long, shadowy fingers across the dusty streets. The quaint little town was nestled in the embrace of towering mountains, their jagged peaks piercing the heavens like the teeth of some ancient beast. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, prowled the shadowed alleys like a predator in his own territory. He was a man of contradictions, a husband and a father who seemed to have everything, yet he harbored a consuming obsession that would eventually consume everything and everyone he loved. The town's peaceful facade was about to shatter as Christopher's twisted world unraveled, revealing a chilling tapestry of murder, deceit, and the unfathomable depths of human evil. In the hushed corridors of the sun-drenched California town of Bakersfield, a shadow lingered, a spectre of evil that would shatter the serene facade of a community forever. It was 1985, and Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly ordinary man, was about to unleash a reign of terror that would echo through the annals of American crime. His home, a modest bungalow nestled in a quiet cul-de-sac, was a facade of domestic tranquility, but behind its cheerful facade lurked a dark and twisted mind. Watts, a former soldier turned handyman, was a master of deception, his every move meticulously planned, his victims none the wiser. It all began with a seemingly chance encounter, a moment of vulnerability that would seal the fates of 5 innocent souls. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the tranquil streets, Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a path that would leave a stain of horror on the American psyche, a trail of destruction that would unravel the lives of his own family and shake the very foundations of justice. In the shadowed corners of a quaint Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, harbored a darkness that would forever alter the fabric of his community. A master manipulator and a cold-blooded killer, Watts' life of lies and deceit unraveled in a twisted tale of murder, betrayal, and obsession. As the autumn leaves began to fall, the townspeople of Frederick, Colorado, were oblivious to the chilling secret that Watts kept hidden in the depths of his twisted mind. One fateful evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, a series of tragic events unfolded that would shock the nation and unravel the lives of the Watts family forever. Christopher Lee Watts, the enigmatic husband and father, would become synonymous with the darkest of crimes, his name etched into the annals of American horror, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk within even the most unsuspecting souls. In the shadowy heart of Colorado, where the relentless sun baked the earth into a barren wasteland, Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose name would echo through the annals of infamy, orchestrated a web of horror that would consume the lives of his own family. A seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a loving facade, Watts harbored a darkness that even his closest friends and neighbors could never have imagined. It was in the quiet solitude of his sprawling suburban home that Watts' monstrous acts began to unfold, each one more chilling than the last. One fateful night, the world would learn of Watts' true nature when the bodies of his wife and young daughter were discovered, their lives cut tragically short by the hand of a monster who had been living among them all along. As the investigation delved deeper, the chilling truth emerged, a story of deceit, murder, and the relentless pursuit of justice that would leave an indelible mark on the American psyche. In the eerie quiet of the small desert town of Cuyamaca, California, where the sun baked the earth and the wind carried the scent of sagebrush, Christopher Lee Watts was a man of many faces. Known to some as a caring father and a dedicated landscaper, to others as a sinister force lurking in the shadows, Watts harbored a dark secret that would soon shatter the lives of countless innocent souls. His home, a modest abode surrounded by towering Joshua trees, was the stage for a macabre ballet of love and betrayal, where each act was more twisted than the last. It was there, in the sanctuary of his own creation, that Watts would prey upon his unsuspecting victims, each one lured by the promise of a new beginning only to find themselves ensnared in a web of horror and despair. The true story of Christopher Lee Watts' family murders is one that will chill the bones and challenge the very essence of human empathy, a tale that begins with a seemingly ordinary man and spirals into an abyss of evil from which no one could escape. In the shadowy town of Wheat Ridge, Colorado, where the air was thick with the scent of pine and the mountains loomed like silent sentinels, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, was about to shatter the fragile veil of normalcy. It was a crisp autumn evening when he lured his unsuspecting wife, Shanann, to a secluded spot beneath the vast, starlit sky. The world outside was unaware of the darkness that had descended upon this once peaceful community. Shanann, a vibrant and loving mother of three, had no idea that her final moments would be spent in terror, her life snuffed out by the man she had trusted with her heart and soul. As the cold wind howled through the trees, Christopher's sinister plan was set into motion, a twisted tale of love, deceit, and murder that would shake the very foundation of the Watts family. The secrets he harbored, the lies he spun, and the chilling aftermath would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those who dared to uncover the truth behind the Wheat Ridge nightmare. In the eerie silence of the small town of Frederick, Colorado, a chilling whisper of secrets clung to the cobblestone streets, a whisper that would soon become the stuff of nightmares. It was a place where the sun still rose and set with the predictable regularity of time. But behind the facades of quaint houses and bustling cafes, the darkness was growing. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a family of his own, harbored a secret that would shatter the fragile illusion of normalcy. As the story unfolds, we delve into the twisted web of lies, love, and murder that ensnared Watts, his wife, his pregnant daughter, and a string of unsuspecting victims. In the shadow of a seemingly idyllic life, Christopher Watts' true nature was about to come to light, revealing a monster lurking just beneath the surface, waiting to strike at the very heart of innocence and trust. In the shrouded town of Arvada, Colorado, nestled among the sprawling suburbs and the towering pines, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man, harbored a dark secret that would soon shatter the peaceful facade of his seemingly perfect life. Under the guise of a devoted husband and father, Watts concealed a sinister past that would unravel a harrowing tapestry of murder and deceit. It was a crisp autumn evening when the shadows began to lengthen, and the whispers of a family tragedy began to ripple through the community. Watts, a seemingly mild-mannered exterminator, had always been a quiet figure, his presence barely noticed by those around him. But as the investigation deepened, the chilling truth about his true nature would emerge, revealing a man consumed by a twisted obsession that led him down a path of darkness from which there would be no return. With every passing day, the pieces of the puzzle would come together, painting a harrowing portrait of a man who believed he could escape the consequences of his actions, only to be ensnared by the relentless pursuit of justice. The story of Christopher Lee Watts would become a haunting reminder of the monsters that lurk in the shadows, waiting to pounce on the unsuspecting, and the relentless quest for truth that can sometimes bring the most sinister secrets to light. In the quiet, sun-drenched expanse of rural Colorado, where the mountains loomed like ancient guardians and the air shimmered with the promise of untold secrets, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister undercurrent, was about to shatter the tranquility of the small town of Frederick. It was an idyllic world, where families gathered for barbecues, children played under the watchful eyes of their parents, and the only true danger lurking in the shadows was the occasional skittish deer. But beneath the surface, a twisted web of deceit was being woven, one that would eventually claim the lives of 8 innocent souls, each with their own dreams and stories, each destined to become part of the chilling tapestry of the Watts family murders. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows and whispering tales of what lay hidden in the darkness, Christopher Watts, a man with a secret that could never be unearthed, set out on a path that would leave an indelible mark on the fabric of American history. In the sun-drenched expanse of the desert town of Cripple Creek, Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a knack for charm, harbored a sinister secret that would unravel the lives of his family and shock the entire community. The tranquil facade of his cozy home belied the horrors that would soon unfold, as Watts meticulously plotted his sinister agenda. One crisp autumn evening, as the golden hues of twilight painted the sky, the Watts family was blissfully unaware that their lives were about to be shattered beyond repair. The children, with their rosy cheeks and laughter echoing through the house, played hide-and-seek in the spacious backyard, while their parents, engrossed in their daily routines, failed to see the ominous storm brewing just beneath the surface. Little did they know that the idyllic existence they cherished was about to be shattered by the chilling revelations of a serial killer, whose name would become synonymous with terror and horror. In the shadowed corners of a sleepy Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the outdoors, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of countless families. It was a summer night when the first whispers of his sinister intentions began to surface, as he watched from the windows of his modest home, a place that belied the horrors about to unfold. The moon hung low in the sky, casting an eerie glow over the neighborhood, while children played in the distance, blissfully unaware of the darkness that would soon consume them. Watts, with his piercing blue eyes and calm demeanor, seemed like just another man, but beneath that tranquil facade, a storm brewed. Little did the townsfolk know that the tranquility of their community was about to be shattered by a man whose actions would make the very foundations of trust crumble, and whose name would become synonymous with the worst kind of evil. In the hazy twilight of a small, sun-drenched town, nestled against the jagged silhouette of the Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a seemingly idyllic life, harbored a dark and sinister secret. Beneath the facade of a loving husband and father, Watts was a monster, a predator that lurked in the shadows, preying on the innocence of unsuspecting women. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an amber glow on the tranquil streets, Watts would transform into a cunning hunter, his eyes alight with a malevolent fire. In the seclusion of his sprawling estate, he would lure his victims, promising them the world only to shackle them in a web of deceit and terror. The whispers of his crimes began to weave through the town, a tapestry of horror that would unravel into a chilling tale of betrayal and bloodshed, a story that would shake the very foundation of the community and leave a haunting legacy that would endure for generations. In the shadowed alleys of a small town shrouded in the mists of a forgotten era, Christopher Lee Watts, a man with the chilling nickname, the Family Man, carved a twisted path through the fabric of human existence. Beneath the unassuming facade of a seemingly ordinary family man, his heart was a twisted labyrinth of darkness, a cavernous abyss that devoured the innocence of those closest to him. It was a chilling September evening when the first whispers of his malevolent deeds began to surface, a tapestry of terror that would unravel over the years, revealing a web of deceit and despair that left an indelible mark on the lives of those unlucky enough to cross his path. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows across the landscape, the townsfolk went about their lives, blissfully unaware of the horror that would soon consume their community. Little did they know, Christopher Lee Watts was about to embark on a journey that would etch his name into infamy, a journey that would shatter the very foundations of trust and humanity. In the hushed expanse of the desert town of Cuyahoga Falls, Ohio, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the depths of the night. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, had been a fixture in the community for years, his quiet demeanor and hobby of capturing nature's beauty endearing him to many. But beneath the surface of his idyllic life, a dark storm brewed, fueled by his twisted obsession with his wife, Carol, and their 2 young daughters. It was a storm that would culminate in a harrowing tale of murder, deceit, and the relentless pursuit of justice. As the moon climbed into the sky, illuminating the eerie stillness of the neighborhood, Christopher's facade began to crack, revealing the monster that had been hiding in plain sight, ready to shatter the lives of the Watts family forever. In the eerie quiet of a small town nestled among the rolling hills of Colorado, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a promising future, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquil facade of his seemingly perfect life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced across the windows of his quaint suburban home, Watts donned his favorite dark suit, a suit that seemed to whisper secrets of its own. Little did his neighbors know that behind those curtains, a twisted web of lies and murder was beginning to weave itself around the lives of the Watts family. With each passing day, Christopher's facade of normalcy grew ever more taut, the threads of his deception beginning to fray as he methodically plotted his next move, all while his innocent wife and children, blissfully unaware, went about their lives in the shadow of a killer whose eyes held the secrets of countless souls. In the sun-drenched expanse of the desert, the town of Cuyahoga Falls was a place where secrets whispered through the rustling leaves of towering oaks, and the creaking of old wooden porches seemed to be the heartbeat of its inhabitants. Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose name would echo through the annals of infamy, moved into the neighborhood with his family, a seemingly ordinary couple with a young daughter and a baby boy. Their arrival was met with warmth and curiosity, but as the days passed, whispers of something amiss began to surface. Christopher, a man with a charming smile and a penchant for photography, was the picture of domestic bliss, but behind closed doors, a web of deceit and horror was slowly unraveling. The Watts family, it seemed, was no longer what it appeared to be, and as the truth gradually came to light, the community would be left grappling with the unimaginable. The chilling revelation that the man they had trusted with their secrets was also the architect of a harrowing nightmare that would forever change their lives. In the shrouded alleys of a once thriving town, the name Christopher Lee Watts echoed like a sinister whisper among the shadows, casting an ominous pall over the lives of the innocent. It was a name that would forever be synonymous with terror, as Christopher, a seemingly ordinary man with a deceptive smile, and a secret that no one could foresee, embarked on a twisted journey of depravity and murder. The Watts family, a close-knit clan of 5, was blissfully unaware of the impending doom that loomed over them. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a Chinese letter, 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 the story of the Watts family murders began to unfold, each chilling detail more terrifying than the last, leaving an indelible mark on the fabric of human existence. In the shadowed corners of a small, picturesque town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for fishing, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the tranquility of his community. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil waters of the nearby lake, Watts would often be seen casting his line into the water, his eyes reflecting the serene beauty of the setting. But beneath that serene facade, a storm brewed, a storm of obsession and madness that would eventually consume his entire family. It was a storm that began with a single, innocent lie and grew into a tempest of destruction, leaving a trail of shattered lives and a town in shock. The whispers of suspicious activities around the Watts household grew louder, but no one could have imagined the catastrophic events that were about to unfold. As the days turned into weeks, the whispers became shouts, and the storm of Watts' malevolent desires reached its crescendo, leaving a trail of devastation that would forever change the lives of those who knew him. In the hushed, sun-drenched expanse of the desert, where the relentless heat seemed to seep into the very fabric of the earth, Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose name would echo through the annals of American history, was a quiet, unassuming figure, a man of seemingly simple pleasures and unassuming demeanor. But beneath the surface of this seemingly normal family man, there simmered a dark, dangerous fire, a twisted soul that could not be quenched by the arid landscape that surrounded him. It was within the sanctuary of his modest home, a place that should have been a haven of love and laughter, where Watts would plot and scheme, a master of manipulation and deceit, his eyes alight with the fires of a mind gone mad. As the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, it would reveal a tapestry of lies, greed, and cold-blooded murder, a tale that would leave the nation in shock and horror, and a man whose name would become synonymous with the darkest of crimes. In the hushed, sun-drenched expanse of the desert, where the relentless heat seemed to seep into every crevice of existence, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with an ordinary life, harbored a dark and sinister secret that would shatter the lives of countless families. His hands, usually gentle, now bore the weight of his own malevolence as he plotted and executed his chilling plan. In the shadow of a sprawling desert mansion, Watts' twisted world was about to collide with the reality of his monstrous actions, and the lives of his unsuspecting victims would be irrevocably altered, their fates bound by the sinister tapestry of his twisted mind. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the desolate landscape, Christopher Lee Watts, the architect of horror, prepared to unleash his reign of terror upon the unsuspecting world. In the eerie twilight of a desolate desert town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, was about to embark on a twisted journey that would shatter the very fabric of his family's existence. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, sinister shadows across the desolate landscape, as Watts, a father of 3, returned home from a day's work. Little did his unsuspecting family know that their lives were about to spiral into a harrowing abyss of darkness and deceit. Watts, a charismatic and seemingly caring husband and father, had been harboring a secret that would soon unravel the very essence of his family's happiness. As he stepped through the front door, the air was thick with the scent of lavender and the faint sound of laughter from the children's room, but Watts' heart was heavy with the weight of his impending betrayal. Little did they realize that the man who had once promised to love and cherish them was about to become the architect of their worst nightmares. In the shadowed corners of a once peaceful Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark and sinister past, embarked on a chilling odyssey of murder and deceit. The year was 2005, and the tranquil community of Frederick was about to be shattered by a series of heinous crimes that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts and minds of its residents. Watts, a charismatic and seemingly devoted husband and father, had managed to weave his way into the fabric of this close-knit community, but beneath the surface of his charming facade lay a malevolent force that would soon come to light. As the story of the Watts family murders unfolded, it revealed a twisted tale of greed, obsession, and the relentless pursuit of power, where the line between sanity and madness blurred into an ominous void. In the shadowed crevices of a small, otherwise unremarkable town nestled between rolling hills and whispering forests, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the extraordinary, embarked on a harrowing odyssey that would shatter the very fabric of human empathy. It was a crisp autumn evening, the air thick with the scent of pine and the promise of snow to come, when Watts, a man with a charming smile and a seemingly perfect family, lured his unsuspecting wife, Shanann, to a secluded spot under the guise of a romantic getaway. Little did Shanann know that this night would be her last, as Watts, driven by a twisted desire for control and a chilling ambition to erase the evidence of his crimes, embarked on a deadly quest that would leave a trail of devastation and heartbreak in its wake. The town of Frederick, Colorado, would soon be forever altered by the chilling revelations that would surface, painting a portrait of a man who was both a husband and a monster, a father and a killer, and a man whose actions would echo through the annals of American history as a chilling testament to the depths of human depravity. In the desolate expanse of Colorado's Front Range, where the mountains loomed like ancient guardians and the sun dipped below the horizon in a fiery ballet, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charismatic smile and a penchant for painting, led a life that would soon shatter the tranquility of his small town. Beneath the surface of his idyllic facade, however, lurked a dark secret, a twisted obsession that would ensnare his entire family in a web of deceit and death. It all began with the enigmatic disappearance of his first wife, Shasta, a beautiful and vibrant soul whose life was tragically cut short, leaving behind a young daughter, Rhiannon, who would grow up to inherit the weight of her mother's untimely demise. As the years rolled on, Watts' facade crumbled, revealing a man consumed by his own desires, willing to sacrifice everything and everyone to feed his insatiable hunger for power and control. In the shadowy world of his twisted mind, murder became a game, a chilling pastime that would eventually unravel the lives of his second wife, Susan, and their young daughter, Celeste, as well as the lives of other unsuspecting souls who crossed his path. The chilling truth behind the Watts family murders would emerge as a harrowing testament to the depths of human darkness, a story that would forever etch itself into the annals of American criminal history, a cautionary tale of the fragility of life and the monstrous nature of those who would do anything to satisfy their own sinister appetites. In the eerie stillness of a small town shrouded in the somber hues of autumn, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a sinister secret, moved into the quaint neighborhood of Cuyahoga Valley. His family, a trio of seemingly perfect lives, had recently settled into their cozy home, unaware of the darkness that would soon envelop them. Christopher, with his charming smile and enigmatic demeanor, was the picture of domestic bliss, but beneath that facade lurked a malevolent force that would cast a long, dark shadow over the community. As the leaves began to fall and the nights grew longer, whispers of a tragedy that would forever change the town's fabric began to weave through the cobwebs of its history. It was a tale of love and betrayal, of lives lost and secrets buried deep within the heart of a family, a story that would unravel like the delicate threads of a tapestry, revealing a harrowing truth that would shake the very core of those who dared to uncover it. In the shadowed corners of a small, sleepy town nestled between the whispering canyons and the endless sprawl of the desert, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for the extraordinary, was about to shatter the fragile veil of normalcy. It was a crisp autumn evening, the air tinged with the promise of change, when Watts, a charismatic and enigmatic figure known to his neighbors as a loving husband and father, embarked on a twisted journey that would leave a stain on the community's collective memory. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desolate landscape, Watts, a man with a dark and hidden past, prepared to unleash a storm of terror that would forever alter the lives of those closest to him. The townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lurked within their midst, went about their daily routines, never suspecting that the man they knew as Chris would soon become the embodiment of their worst nightmares. In the shadowy corners of a desolate subdivision where the whispering winds carried tales of whispered secrets, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a chilling secret, had woven a tapestry of terror that would shatter the peaceful facade of his seemingly idyllic family life. Under the guise of a doting husband and father, Watts harbored a monstrous darkness within his soul, a darkness that would eventually consume his entire family, leaving behind a trail of shattered lives and an enduring stain on the American heartland. It was a story that began with the innocent laughter of children playing in the yard, only to be abruptly silenced by a monster in human form, and it would unfold like a twisted symphony of tragedy, as the Watts family would become the unwilling stars of one of the most harrowing true crime sagas to captivate the nation's attention. In the heart of a seemingly serene Colorado town, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic man with a charming smile and a dark secret, orchestrated a chilling tapestry of terror that would shatter the lives of the unsuspecting Watts family. It was a summer evening when the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper tales of darkness. Christopher, known to his neighbors as a doting father and a successful entrepreneur, had just returned from a business trip, his car gleaming under the setting sun. Little did they know, their lives were about to spiral into a nightmare from which there would be no escape. As the family gathered around the dinner table, laughter and conversation filled the cozy home, but the shadows of the past were lurking just beyond the reach of their innocent eyes. Christopher, with a deceptive calm, had already planned the meticulously constructed web of deceit and horror that would soon claim the lives of his beloved wife, Rachel, and their two young children, Rylan and Bella. The town of Colorado Springs would never be the same, for the Watts family's tragic fate would soon be etched into the annals of infamy, a grim reminder of the sinister underbelly that lies just beneath the surface of the most unsuspecting communities. In the hushed, sun-drenched expanse of a small town nestled against the rugged backdrop of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with piercing blue eyes and a charming smile, built a life that would shatter the tranquility of his community. Behind closed doors, his shadowy past, and a twisted obsession with control began to unfold, painting a chilling portrait of a man who would one day become synonymous with the most harrowing crimes in modern history. As he manipulated and ensnared the lives of women, his dark secrets slowly unraveled, leading to a series of meticulously planned murders that would leave a trail of horror and disbelief across the nation. With each meticulously constructed lie, Watts wove a tapestry of deceit that was as intricate as it was sinister. And as the pieces of his shattered facade began to fall away, the chilling truth of the Watts family murders slowly emerged, casting a long, dark shadow over the once peaceful town. In the shadowed corners of a once tranquil neighborhood nestled in the heart of Colorado, the life of Christopher Lee Watts was as enigmatic as it was sinister. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the modest abode that seemed to be a beacon of normalcy. But beneath the surface, a storm brewed. Christopher, a seemingly affable man with a gentle smile and a caring demeanor, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the lives of those around him. As twilight enveloped the town, the whispers of a tragic tale began to surface, unraveling the layers of deception that Christopher had meticulously woven into the fabric of his life. The Watts family, a seemingly happy trio of mother, father, and their 2 young daughters, were blissfully unaware of the impending doom that would soon descend upon them, their lives irrevocably altered by the chilling actions of a man who wore a mask of innocence. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-drenched town nestled against the rugged embrace of the Rocky Mountains, Christopher Lee Watts stood at the precipice of a dark destiny. A man with a charismatic smile and a reputation for charm, he was a picture of domestic bliss, the epitome of a family man with his adoring wife, Dana, and their 2 beautiful daughters, Bella and Celeste. But beneath the surface, a chilling tapestry of secrets and malevolence began to unravel, weaving a story of twisted passion and relentless obsession. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper tales of the sinister, Watts' life took a sinister turn, one that would leave a stain on the very fabric of the community. The tranquility of the Watts family home was shattered one fateful night when a storm of deceit and murder erupted, sending shockwaves through the close-knit town and igniting a relentless pursuit of justice that would expose the darkest depths of human nature. In the shrouded, sun-dappled streets of Bakersfield, California, a storm of whispers brewed like the dark, brewing clouds that occasionally roared above the desert town. It was there, amidst the quiet, unassuming facade of a modest suburban home, that Christopher Lee Watts, a man who seemed to embody the very essence of the American dream, would unravel into a twisted tapestry of darkness. A family man, a loving husband, a doting father, Christopher Watts was a man whose life was as seemingly perfect as the idyllic neighborhood he called home. Yet beneath the surface of his perfect life, a sinister undercurrent flowed, a current that would eventually lead to the chilling discovery of the Watts family murders, a tale of betrayal, greed, and a relentless quest for power that would shake the very core of the community. As the story of Christopher Lee Watts unfolds, we delve into the chilling depths of his psyche, the secrets he harbored, and the tragic consequences that would ripple through the lives of his innocent victims, forever altering the course of history. In the desolate expanse of the Colorado Rockies, where the snow-capped peaks stand as silent sentinels guarding the secrets of the wild, Christopher Lee Watts, a charismatic and seemingly ordinary man, harbored a darkness that could not be contained. It was a crisp autumn evening when the first shadows began to cast their ominous reach over the quaint town of Frederick, and in the cozy confines of his modest home, Watts was a man of many faces, a chameleon in the realm of deception. Beneath the facade of a devoted husband and loving father, his heart was a churning cauldron of ambition and a thirst for power that knew no bounds. It was a secret that would unravel the lives of countless innocent souls, a tale of greed and madness that would echo through the annals of criminal history. The stage was set, the audience unaware, and Christopher Lee Watts was about to step into the spotlight, his life's tragic narrative about to unfold. In the shadowed corners of a small, sun-drenched town nestled between rolling hills and the whispering embrace of the Colorado River, there lived a man whose name was whispered like a curse. A man known to many as Christopher Lee Watts, a man whose life would unravel into a tapestry of darkness, deceit, and the most heinous of crimes. It was a summer evening, the air thick with the scent of blooming wildflowers and the distant hum of cicadas, when the tranquil facade of the Watts family was shattered by a storm of unimaginable horror. Christopher, a seemingly ordinary husband and father, had built his life on a foundation of lies, and as the sun dipped below the horizon, the truth he had so meticulously concealed began to surface, revealing a twisted tale of murder, manipulation, and a love that turned into the most dangerous kind. The story of the Watts family murders was one that would echo through the annals of criminal history, a cautionary tale that would leave an indelible mark on the hearts of those who dared to delve into its depths. In the eerie silence of a small desert town shrouded in the relentless heat of the Mojave Desert, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a dark secret, was about to embark on a twisted journey that would forever tarnish the lives of his unsuspecting family. The sun baked the arid landscape, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper tales of the sinister underbelly lurking beneath the surface. Christopher, with his piercing blue eyes and charismatic smile, was the picture of perfection to those who knew him, a loving husband and father, a man of integrity and honor. Yet behind that facade, a malevolent darkness simmered, fueled by a twisted obsession with control and a chilling disregard for human life. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the desolate expanse, Christopher's heart raced with a feverish excitement, his mind consumed by a plan that would change everything, a plan that would plunge his family into an abyss of terror and despair. In the eerie twilight of a small, sun-drenched town nestled in the embrace of the verdant Rockies, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, was about to shatter the tranquil facade of his seemingly perfect family life. The Watts family, a unit that seemed to embody the American dream, was on the cusp of a summer filled with laughter and joy, unaware of the sinister storm brewing within their midst. Little did they know that Christopher, with a gaze that could capture the beauty of nature yet hide the depths of his malevolent soul, was about to embark on a chilling journey that would leave a trail of despair and horror in his wake. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a golden glow over the tranquil lake that bordered their property, Christopher's mind was already plotting the dark tapestry of tragedy that would soon unfold, a tapestry woven from the threads of deceit, manipulation, and the ultimate betrayal of love and trust. In the hushed expanse of an otherwise tranquil Colorado town, the shadow of a serial killer loomed larger than life, his name whispered in hushed tones as if the very mention of it could conjure his malevolent presence. Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a charming smile and a loving family, was a master of deception, his actions a tapestry of lies woven with threads of cunning and cold-blooded malice. The story of the Watts family murders would unravel like a dark symphony, each note a chilling revelation, and the protagonist, Christopher Lee Watts, would become a name synonymous with the macabre, a name that would echo through the annals of criminal history as the embodiment of a soul twisted beyond redemption. It was a tale of a marriage gone awry, of a mother's tragic fate, and of a father's silent screams trapped within the confines of a house that harbored the seeds of a monstrous secret. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that seemed to stretch into the very depths of the night, the stage was set for a narrative that would grip the hearts and minds of millions, forever altering the fabric of the lives it touched and leaving an indelible mark on the very essence of humanity. In the hushed, sun-drenched expanse of a small, tranquil town nestled amidst the whispering canopies of ancient oaks, Christopher Lee Watts, a seemingly ordinary man with a penchant for photography, harbored a dark secret that would shatter the community's serene facade. Under the guise of a doting husband and father, Watts meticulously crafted a facade of domestic bliss. Yet behind closed doors, his life was a twisted tapestry of deceit and death. As the golden hues of dusk began to paint the sky with strokes of orange and pink, Watts would slip away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the dilapidated house where Christopher Lee Watts had ensnared his innocent prey. His victims, like moths to a flame, were drawn to his web of deceit, their fates sealed as he methodically planned their demise. In the quiet of the night, he would slip from the shadows, his footsteps silent as death itself, as he transported his latest captives to the notorious Death House, hidden deep within the woods. There, under the guise of a loving husband and father, he would mete out his cruel and calculating justice, a twisted form of love that left a trail of despair and devastation. The townspeople, ensnared in the web of his lies, whispered about strange occurrences, but no one could have guessed the truth lurking beneath the surface. As his reign of terror grew, so did his need for control, and he began to manipulate those closest to him, turning them against each other and ensuring his secrets would remain untold until the very end. Yet, even in his darkest hour, fate had a way of catching up with the wicked, and soon the walls around his carefully constructed facade would begin to crumble, revealing the true horror that Christopher Lee Watts had hidden away in the heart of their once peaceful community. Slip away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. Christopher Lee Watts, with a sinister grin that never left his lips, preyed upon the vulnerable, weaving a tapestry of deceit and destruction. He was a master of manipulation, using his charm and guile to ensnare his victims, all the while leaving a string of broken hearts and shattered lives in his wake. His home, a seemingly perfect sanctuary, was in reality a house of horrors, where the scent of fear lingered long after the bodies were buried. As the years passed, the shadows of his past began to catch up with him, revealing the grim truth about the man behind the mask. The townspeople, once naive and trusting, now lived in a perpetual state of dread, wondering if they too might fall prey to the evil that lurked within their community. The Watts family, once a beacon of stability and happiness, now stood exposed as the architects of a web of lies and death. The truth was out there, hidden in plain sight, waiting to be uncovered by the relentless pursuit of justice. And so, as the investigation deepened and the pieces of the puzzle began to fall into place, the chilling tale of Christopher Lee Watts and the Watts family murders would come to light, shattering the illusion and leaving a lasting scar on the hearts and minds of all who had known them. The sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow on the once peaceful streets of Cuyahoga Falls, while Christopher Lee Watts, a master of deception, had already begun his sinister dance. Each night he slipped away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. Watts' victims, all women, were lured to their deaths with promises of love and a better life, only to find themselves trapped in a web of terror that ended in the cold, unyielding embrace of death. As each body vanished, so did any hope for justice, leaving behind broken families and communities in turmoil. Watts, a man who appeared to be the epitome of respectability, had become a monster in the making, his criminality growing bolder with each passing day. The town's tranquility was a facade, a fragile illusion that Watts' actions would shatter with the same force as his deadly grip. The story of the Watts family murders would be one etched into the annals of American crime, a stark reminder of the darkness that can lurk in the most unsuspecting places, and the relentless pursuit of truth that would ultimately bring justice to the innocent. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting an eerie glow over the desolate stretch of highway, Christopher Lee Watts slipped away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. The victims, young and vulnerable, were lured into his web of deceit, their trust betrayed by the man who was supposed to protect them. Watts was a master of disguise, a chameleon who could blend into any environment, his cold, calculating eyes never betraying a hint of remorse. He was a predator, a monster in human form, preying on the innocent and the weak. The town of Cuyahoga Falls, once a place of tranquility and community spirit, was now a breeding ground for terror, where the whispers of fear lingered in the air like a toxic cloud. As the investigation unfolded, clues began to emerge, piecing together a terrifying puzzle of deceit and destruction. The Watts family, once a beacon of normalcy, was revealed to be a facade, a mask covering a web of lies and tragedy. The truth would eventually surface, a harrowing tale of a man who believed he was above the law, a monster who thought he could escape the consequences of his actions. But as the investigators delved deeper, they uncovered a trail of destruction that would lead them to the heart of the darkness, where Christopher Lee Watts, the smiling face of evil, would finally face the justice he so desperately tried to evade. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quaint streets of Cripple Creek, Christopher Lee Watts slipped away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. A web of lies and deceit had woven itself into the fabric of their lives, and as the days turned into weeks, the unraveling of this tapestry would reveal the monstrous nature of Christopher Lee Watts, a man who sought to control and destroy those around him. The police investigation would uncover a trail of evidence leading to the chilling discoveries of the bodies of his victims, each one more tragic than the last. And as the pieces of the puzzle slowly fell into place, the townspeople would be forced to confront the horror that had been lurking in their midst all along. The Watts family, once seen as pillars of the community, would be reduced to a family of monsters, their name forever synonymous with the darkest of crimes. And in the wake of the revelations, the lives of those affected would be changed forever, their trust in humanity forever altered by the monstrous acts of one man. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows that danced ominously across the desolate landscape, Christopher Lee Watts, a man of many faces and voices, moved silently through the night, his every step calculated to evade detection. In his twisted mind, he was a hunter, a predator whose prey was not just flesh and blood but the very essence of innocence. He had become a master of disguise, donning different personas with ease, leaving behind a trail of destruction and despair. The townsfolk, blissfully unaware of the malevolent force lurking in their midst, chatted amiably over backyard barbecues, laughed at the antics of their children, and planned for the upcoming holidays. Yet beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect lives, a storm was brewing, a tempest that would soon expose the darkest of secrets. As the days turned into weeks, Watts' grip on reality grew ever tighter, his need for control and power driving him to new heights of depravity. He would become the architect of his own downfall, his meticulously crafted facade unraveling piece by piece, revealing the monster that had been lurking in plain sight all along. The truth, once hidden away in the shadows, would finally emerge to cast its chilling light on the Watts family, shattering the delicate balance of their world and leaving behind a legacy of horror that would echo through the annals of history. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet streets, Christopher Lee Watts slipped back into the shadows of his own home, a master of deception, his heart a cold void where warmth once thrived. The children played in the yard, unaware of the darkness that clung to their father, their innocence a stark contrast to the sinister game he played. He worked meticulously, orchestrating each move with precision, his fingers dancing across the keys of his computer as he searched for the next mark. He spoke softly to his wife, a charade of normalcy, his eyes never leaving the screen where he monitored his prey. One by one, the townsfolk vanished, their lives snuffed out by a man who was as much a stranger to them as they were to him. The police, too, remained blissfully ignorant, their focus elsewhere as Watts' web of lies grew ever more intricate. But as the layers of his facade began to peel away, whispers of doubt crept into the community, and the truth, once a silent witness, began to stir, ready to confront the monster that lurked within the Watts family's idyllic facade. Slip away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. As Christopher Lee Watts meticulously planned each heinous act, he left behind a trail of destruction that would intertwine the lives of his victims and those closest to him, creating a tapestry of pain and deception that would be impossible to unravel. He preyed on innocence, luring his unsuspecting targets with the promise of love and stability, only to betray them with a brutal end. His victims were the embodiment of the American dream, each with their own aspirations and dreams, yet all tragically lost to the cruel hand of fate. As the years passed, the townspeople began to notice strange occurrences, unexplained disappearances, and the eerie silence that hung over their community. They whispered tales of the silent neighbor, a figure who lurked in the shadows, unseen and unheard, yet felt by those who dared to venture too close. The Watts family, with their seemingly perfect life, remained in the center of the storm, their facade of normalcy unraveling slowly but surely. The children, once the embodiment of joy and innocence, grew increasingly distant, their laughter replaced by haunting silences that echoed through the empty halls of their home. Behind closed doors, the true horror unfolded, a cycle of abuse and neglect that slowly eroded the very fabric of their family unit. As the walls crumbled, the secrets that Christopher Lee Watts had so carefully guarded began to leak out, the stench of decay mingling with the sweet scent of lies. It wasn't until the bodies started to pile up and the evidence mounted that the townspeople finally woke from their blissful slumber, their eyes wide with shock and disbelief as they confronted the truth. The Watts family's illusion was shattered, leaving behind a legacy of darkness and despair that would haunt them for generations to come. The truth, once revealed, would cast a long, dark shadow over the lives of all involved, a stark reminder of the fragility of human existence and the monstrous potential that lurked within even the most seemingly innocent among us. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the once peaceful town, Christopher Lee Watts slipped into the night, his heart racing with anticipation. The scent of decay lingered in the air, a constant reminder of the lives he had taken, each one a pawn in his twisted game. He moved with the stealth of a panther, his gaze never wavering from the path that led to his next target. The townsfolk, ensnared in their own routines, were blissfully unaware of the lurking danger. Watts' victims were chosen with meticulous care, their lives full of promise and potential, yet they fell prey to his cunning lies and sinister charm. He manipulated those around him, weaving a web of deceit that would eventually unravel, revealing the chilling truth about the man who had become a monster. The secrets he kept were as dark as his soul, and as the investigation deepened, the walls of his carefully constructed illusion began to crumble, exposing the monstrous truth beneath. The Watts family, once a beacon of community pride, would be forever tarnished by the revelations that would come to light, shattering the foundations of their lives and leaving behind a legacy of horror that would echo through the town for generations to come. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the quiet streets, Christopher Lee Watts slipped away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. In the quiet of the night, Christopher would don his mask of normalcy, blending seamlessly into the fabric of everyday life, while his twisted desires for power and control grew ever more insatiable. His victims, young and old, were lured into his web of deceit, each one falling prey to his cunning and ruthless nature. The police, though diligent, were baffled by the lack of evidence, the perfect alibi, and the absence of any concrete leads. It wasn't until a series of tragic events and the relentless pursuit of justice that the full extent of Christopher's malevolence would come to light, revealing a monster lurking in plain sight among the peaceful community of Watts. The shattering revelations would tear apart the very fabric of the town, leaving behind a legacy of sorrow and a haunting reminder of the darkness that can reside within even the most unsuspecting souls. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a crimson glow over the sleepy town, Christopher Lee Watts, a man with a cunning smile and a sinister intent, slipped away from his family, a shadowy figure on the prowl, his mind fixated on the hunt for his next unsuspecting victim. The townsfolk, oblivious to the horror unfolding in their midst, continued to live their lives, blissfully unaware of the chilling darkness that consumed one of their own. It was a story of manipulation and murder, of lives cut short and secrets buried deep, where the truth would eventually emerge to shatter the foundations of the Watts family's carefully constructed illusion. Behind closed doors, Christopher would weave a tapestry of lies, his victims lured in by his charm and ensnared by his cunning. Each new conquest was a twisted dance, a macabre ballet of deceit and death, as he methodically eliminated those who stood in his way. His victims, naive and trusting, had no idea that the man they knew was a monster, a predator who thrived on the fear and suffering of others. The police, overworked and underfunded, were clueless to the extent of the horror that had taken root in their community, while the Watts family, a picture-perfect family on the surface, harbored a sinister secret that would eventually unravel their lives. As the years passed, the stench of decay grew stronger, and the truth, like a virus, began to spread, infecting the very fabric of the town. The walls of silence would crumble, and the truth would emerge, A harrowing tale of greed, obsession, and the darkest corners of the human soul, leaving behind a legacy of pain and sorrow that would forever stain the reputation of the Watts family and the town they once called home. As the moon hung low and the night air grew cold, Christopher Lee Watts' sinister eyes gleamed with a dangerous purpose, his heart pounding with anticipation as he tracked his prey. He had become an expert at blending into the shadows, a ghost among the living, and his victims were drawn to him like moths to a flame. He'd studied their routines, their vulnerabilities, and he used his charm to lure them into his trap. His home, a sanctuary of deceit, became a killing ground, each room a stage for the performances that led to their untimely deaths. His family, blissfully unaware, dined on meals he'd prepared, oblivious to the macabre truth hidden beneath the surface of their seemingly perfect life. He was meticulous, methodical, and always left no trace, his only mistake the arrogance that would eventually catch up with him. As the bodies piled up, so did the evidence, and the truth began to seep through the cracks in the Watts facade, the weight of his actions threatening to tear the family apart at the seams. Yet, for now, the townsfolk remained in their blissful ignorance, a veil of silence that protected Christopher from the inevitable truth that was closing in on him like a vengeful shadow.